Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2024 Farmers Insurance Open Data Dive Show. Got a lot to cover for you all since Fantasy National has updated their site. We have a lot of metrics to look at since we didn't have a chance to last night. And of course, we are here to dig into all of the data that is relevant for Torrey Pines and the farmers. I want to hear from you all. The odds came out today, so did you make any wagers? Who are you circling early on in your week of research? And of course, do you remember that the Farmers is a Wednesday through Saturday event, so we have one less day to get our lineups situated and optimized. So we got a lot to cover tonight. We have a lot to cover tonight. Let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from the aforementioned FantasyNational.com. It is the best tool out there for golf analytics. They have been working on their site diligently for the past couple of weeks. A lot of improvements. So if you are a golf analytics fan and want the data at your fingertips, then go check out FantasyNational.com. You won't regret it. In the description to the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where I posted some research earlier today around the past 7 winners of the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines. Torrey Pines North, as we talked about last night, went through an extensive renovation in 2016. So that's why I only went back to the 2017 Farmers in my research. So if you want to see the weekly research I do on the PGA Tour, and for this week, the Farmers Insurance Open and Torrey Pines, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and my player exposure in my DFS lineups. So if you want to see those pieces of information, give me a follow over there as well. And then lastly, for social media, Gabe's X handle is in the description. He writes a very good article called The Fringe. It's a great way to start your week of research. And then throughout the week, he continues to provide you information such as course history, recent form, all of that good stuff. And if you are a subscriber to his article, you're going to be able to join him and I in his Substack chat, normally every Wednesday evening, but this week with the change in the schedule, it'll be tomorrow night. You're going to be able to join us in his Substack chat as we continue the DFS talk over in his Substack chat after calls. You don't want to miss that. So the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you're a subscriber to his article. And then lastly, we are live. Chat is open. Want to hear from you all again. Have you made any wagers with the odds boards coming out today? Who have you focused on in your research today? And what do you know of Torrey Pines? How do you think it's going to play? All of that good stuff. Would love to hear from you all. So let's dig into the weeds of the data for the 2024 Farmers Insurance Open. And we're going to start, as promised last night, over at Windfinder with today's forecast. It looks like La Jolla and Torrey Pines has been pummeled. Just absolutely pummeled with rain. Lots of wind, but a whole lot of rain, which is going to make this course even longer than it normally plays. If the course is saturated, the rough is always kept long. So I can imagine that this week's Farmers is going to play exceptionally tough and exceptionally long. Now, the wind and the rain is supposed to clear out by morning tomorrow. And then, looking at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, looks pretty calm. Chilly, highs in the low 60s, but they have supposedly been pummeled with rain today. And if that's the case, I would expect Torrey Pines to play extremely long and even more difficult than it normally does. So let's keep that in mind as we move forward tonight and into tomorrow, as we start to figure out who we want to focus on in our wagers and make core in our DFS lineups. So with that, we're going to move to Fantasy National, and the first look here on calls of the updated site for Fantasy National. Quite a bit of a different layout here but no worries. The information is still going to be there, so you can see sample size of 36 rounds. We are on all courses right now. We are looking at just the strokes gained page view. So in the last 36 rounds, going back to the beginning of 2023, custom date range, where is that listed? I knew I had it up here somewhere. You'll just have to trust me that it is from 1/1/23 through the American Express. Hey, good evening, P. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. How has your week been? Hopefully you are ready for a shortened week, but a very fun tournament in terms of the Farmers, and we'll see if we can't get on the right track after Sam Burns really did us in this past week. But hopefully you had a good American Express and are ready for the Farmers. Thanks for jumping in chat. So our top off the tee players in the field this week: Ludwig Aubert, Kevin Yu, Patrick Cantley, Tyler Duncan, Doug Gim, Keith Mitchell, Johnny Vegas, Stefan Jaeger, Cameron Champ, and Will Zalatoris. Don't mind the model rank, as that is just kind of a default use here. I'll show you where we're putting 25% in all of the strokes gained for the moment, not weighing anything in particular. We're just wanting to look at the top 10 or top 15 or so in terms of these strokes gained in the various metrics. So don't worry about the model rank for now. You see, I do have two more players starred. Of course, Tyler McCumber had withdrawn last night before the initial research show. Earlier today, Justin Thomas and your amateur champion from the American Express, Nick Dunlap, have withdrawn from the Farmers. So it's important to make those notes. Tyler McCumber, Justin Thomas, and Nick Dunlap have withdrawn from playing the Farmers this week. Okay, so there's a look at off the tee. We'll definitely take a look at an approach here very quickly, but we're definitely going to want to take a look at some filters, as we didn't have the capability to do that last night with Fantasy National updating their site. So our top 10 strokes gained approach players since the beginning of 2023: Colin Morikawa, Alex Smalley, Xander, Sam Ryder, Daniel Berger, Ches Reavie, Hideki, Gary Woodland, Aaron Rai, and Eric Cole are your top 10 in terms of approach. Randomly enough, the Western Am this past summer, Buddy and I followed Nick Dunlap for a few holes. Yeah, I was nowhere near him. I won't lie to the viewers. There's no way I was going to tell you to back an amateur in a professional event. But he played amazingly well. He stared down Sam Burns and Justin Thomas and beat them. He just simply flat out beat them. Thanks Sam Burns for double dipping on 17 and 18, and considering I had a 30-1 outright wager on him. But I would expect a lot of good things to come for Nick Dunlap here in the near future, whether he decides to turn pro or continue to play his career at Alabama. But certainly has what appears to be not only the right demeanor, but the right skill set to play and play well on the PGA Tour. Not being able to keep, I would agree with that, especially with the fact that all of the major sports, basketball, football, are getting these NIL deals. I would tend to agree with you in that sense. If you win a tournament, you ought to be able to keep that money. But that's neither here nor there. Let's take a look at a couple of things that we weren't able to do last night, and I definitely want to take a look into it. The first thing, let's take a look at scoring when it is difficult. As we know that Torrey Pines is traditionally difficult, especially the South Course. Did Bez? I don't think so. Only because Bezuidenhout got the full 1.5 million that was allotted to the tournament winner. Christian Bezaden, who ended up banking $1.5 million. I have not heard of any other scenarios or situations with Dunlap and the money. So definitely want to look at some difficult to par scoring or performance here, because as we look at the historic conditions now, it is not guaranteed that Torrey Pines South will play difficult every single round. I mean, you see last year, Torrey Pines played average a couple of rounds, but what you will not see is Torrey Pines South play easy. That is always going to be the North Course. And for the most part, Torrey Pines South does play difficult. Certainly on the more difficult end of average, if it does play average. So we're definitely going to want to look at some more difficult scoring filters. So when rounds have been difficult since the beginning of 2023, our top performers in terms of total performance: Xander, Patrick Cantlay, Will Zalatoris, Colin Morikawa, Max Homa, Justin Suh, Jason Day, Daniel Berger, Justin Rose, and Tony Finau are your top 10 in terms of performance when a round has been difficult relative to par. We also definitely want to look at long courses, especially looking at Windfinder and seeing that Torrey Pines has just been pummeled with rain today, and Torrey Pines South is measured at over 7,700 yards already. I would expect Torrey Pines to play extremely long this week. Probably very difficult, but extremely long thanks to the amount of rain they've received today. I am going to have to expand this time frame, if I can remember where I did that. Let's go 2 years and then adjust off of that. Custom date range from 1/1/2022 through the American Express this past weekend. And again, I'm just expanding the time frame to get enough rounds for everybody. You see, not everybody has even 24 rounds. Most of these players have, into the teens. It's very rare that you find long courses, or at least measured over 7,400 on the scorecard in on the PGA Tour. You get the Masters, the Farmers, Quail Hollow. In fact, let's see if we can't find or see which rounds these are. So we have the Century, Valero, that's TBC San Antonio. Of course, the Masters, Century, Farmers, Arnold Palmer, very long, difficult course, Bay Hill, Wells Fargo, Quail Hollow. So very few tournaments across the PGA Tour schedule that has consistently been over 7,400 yards. But on those long courses, your top performers on long courses, those are defined as over 7,400 yards: Sam Stevens, Sungjae, Xander, Max Homa, Colin Morikawa, Michael Kim, Nikolai Højgaard, Patrick Cantlay, Nico Echeverria, Akshay Bhatia, and Harry Hall are your top performers on long courses the past couple of years. So let me bring this time frame in, as we're going to go start looking at the prior leaderboards for the Farmers, figure out which players which metrics we want to focus on this week for the Farmers, and which players perform the best at those metrics. All right, so looking at last year's leaderboard, we will highlight the top 19 just due to ties here. You have a few players off negative off the tee, really the worst being Jimmy Walker. But look at all this putting. A very, very important metric here in putting, especially since it's Poa annua, and there's only 3 courses regular courses on the PGA Tour that feature Poa annua greens, pure Poa annua greens. Here, Torrey Pines, Pebble Beach, the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, and Riviera, the Genesis Invitational. Those are the three courses that are consistent on the PGA Tour that feature Poa annua greens. So we're definitely going to want to look at a lot of Poa annua. Pretty even here, and we saw this in Microsoft Excel, how the around the green and the putting kind of outweighed the approach and off the tee to a small degree. We're definitely going to want to look at some of these ball striking metrics, though. So if we sort on each of these individual strokes gained metrics, you see off the tee was fairly correlating, other than maybe Stefan Jaeger here last year with a 3.3, but top 25 from Luke List, top 5, top 10, another top 10 from John Rahm. Your winner was quite a bit further down in Max Homa, but decent bit of correlation here in the off the tee. Approach, very correlating. Your winner led in the category by a pretty significant margin. Win, a top 5, a third, a top 5. Some middling finishes, more top 15s and 20s. So approach, definitely going to be a huge facet this week. Around the green is going to have a little bit of weight as well, especially since this course is so long. These greens are small, they're difficult to hit. So you're going to have to be pretty good around the green, especially with the long rough that is featured around Torrey Pines. You can see, kind of like off the tee, you've got a little bit of correlation mixed in with some higher clunker finishes, clunker of made cuts. Austin Cook up here fairly high, but a lot of middling finishes, so around the green isn't to be ignored either. And of course, looking at the putting, your winner was a little bit further down, but second, top 15, a top 10, a top 10. Middling the clunker from saying you'll know, but a top 5, your winner, top 15, more top 20s. Putting going to be a very big factor this week again. Looking at 2 years ago when Luke List won, even he putt very well, and he putts well here at Torrey Pines. We highlight the top 15 just due to ties. Again, only 2 players negative in terms of putting. You see really only 1 player severely negative and around the green. It was John Rahm. And the off the tee and approach are kind of interspersed with some negatives there. Off the tee, again, a little bit of correlation, but a pretty high clunker of a made cut from Joseph Bramlett. Led and off the tee, he didn't do a damn thing else well the rest of the week. Top 5, or a third from John Rahm, a top 10 from Neiman, top 20, top 10. So off the tee going to be just a little bit. I imagine we might want to look at off the tee, perhaps when it's difficult, perhaps on long courses. A couple of different ways we can look at that. Again, strokes gained approach, not to be outdone. You see the level of correlation here. Runner up, top 15, top 20. Your winner was 4th. Top 10, some top 25. So lots of correlation among the strokes gained approach. Around the green, some cut making. Just like last year in Max Homa's win, you had some cut making interdispersed with some pretty high, or I should say pretty poor finishes. 46th, 62nd, 46th from down here. You do have a little bit of some correlation. And then the putting, couple of big finishes, but then top 15s, top 10s, third, your winner. So all 4 metrics we're going to take a look at this evening, and then come tomorrow when the DFS Tactics show comes out, I'll definitely have some higher weights among the strokes gained that I think are going to be more important. But we're definitely going to look at all 4 strokes gained this evening. We looked at off the tee. Let's take a look at off the tee when it's difficult, when a round is difficult. In those rounds, your top off the tee players when a round has been difficult: Patrick Cantlay, Will Zalatoris, Keith Mitchell, Luke List, Taylor Pendrith, Will Gordon, Tony Finau, Keegan Bradley, Hayden Buckley, and Sungjae are your top 10 in terms of off the tee when a round is difficult. I wasn't going to look at long courses, but let's go ahead and do so. I'll just have to change the time frame from 1/1/2022 through this past weekend. And our top off the tee players on long courses, those players are Luke List, Gary Woodland, Will Zalatoris, Keith Mitchell, Patrick Cantlay, Taylor Moore, Stefan Jaeger, Max Homa, Davis Thompson, and Tony Finau. Those are your top 10. And this is probably where I'm leaning, combination of metric and filter, as Luke List, former champion here. Gary Woodland has played well here. Zalatoris has played well here. Homa, your defending champion. Tony Finau is your strokes gained total leader the past 5 years here at Torrey Pines, or at least for the Farmers. So a lot of the same players that have performed well here, at least for off the tee, combining with the look of long courses and that filter. We took a look at strokes gained approach. Don't want to cover that one too heavily, as we'll just look at strokes gained approach. Let's take a look at long rough, as Torrey Pines features some of the longest rough on the PGA Tour. 4 inches long is what it has on the GCSAA tournament fact sheet. So our top around the green players in long rough, right there in long rough, top around the green players: Ben Griffin, Aaron Baddeley, Troy Merritt, S.H. Kim, Patrick Rogers, Kevin Streelman, Daniel Berger, Callum Tarrant, Jason Day, and Minwoo Lee. Of course, skipping Justin Thomas, he has withdrawn. There's your top around the green players in long rough. If you want to take a look at around the green when it's difficult relative to par, we will sort here, and I'm just going to keep it at 1/1/22 just to keep the time frames similar. Our top around the green players when around is difficult: Aaron Baddeley, Matt Wallace, Jason Day, Stefan Jaeger, Tony Finau, Hideki, Josh Teeter, Patrick Cantlay, David Lipsky, and Bo Hostler. Again, some more overlap here. Finau, Jason Day is a winner, former winner here. Cantlay's played well here. Bo Hostler's played well here. So there's a look at some of the players that are very good around the green in long rough. Lastly, we're going to take a look at some putting. Let me filter out this, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know how well this is going to go since Fantasy National has changed its site. We're going to look for 3 specific courses here. Of course, we're going to look for Torrey Pines South. Apply that course filter. We want Riviera. And we want Pebble Beach Golf Links. So those 3 courses: Pebble Beach, Riviera, Torrey Pines. These are the courses that feature Poa annua greens, pure Poa annua greens. And of course, I've went all the way back to 2019. Remove this difficult to par filter. All right, so courses last 36, PGA Tour, and again, let me just make sure I have the right time frame here. 1/1/2019. I want to go all the way back to 2019, get enough rounds for the players in the field this week. On those 3 courses that are Poa annua, and you see most players do have 36 rounds, be into the teens, into the 20s for, I would say, the majority of players. Our top putters on Poa annua greens in the past 5 years: Max Homa, Maverick McNeely, Peter Malnati, Justin Suh, Jason Day, Patrick Rogers, S.H. Kim, Michael Kim, Eric Barnes, Aaron Baddeley, and Lonto Griffin. So there's your top performers on pure Poa annua greens going back to the beginning of 2019, or 5 years. It's the furthest back I like to go, but I want to make sure I get enough rounds for everybody. Max Homa, your defending champion. Peter Malnati has played surprisingly well here at Torrey Pines, despite the length that Torrey Pines presents, and he is not long off the tee. It's all about the putter for Peter Malnati. Jason Day, a former winner. Patrick Rogers, a California native. S.H. Kim, Michael Kim, another California native. Went to school in San Diego, I believe. Just outside your top 10. Xander. Sam Stevens played well here last year. So there's a look at your top Poa annua putters in the past 5 years. Okay, let's bring this back into... let's go to the last 12 months, or 1/1/2023, as we start to narrow in on a lot of the metrics that we want to focus on. We're going to look for, let's bring back all courses. We're going to go to the Fairways and Greens tab next. And we'll take a look at Fairways and Greens. Take a look at last year's leaderboard. Something that was surprising to me as I looked and did a little bit of research. Look at the distance here. Did not factor in too much. There were quite a few players that were negative. Now, these aren't large negative numbers. They were still pretty darn close to field average. But there are a lot of players that were negative. I'm going to tell you this is a little bit of an outlier, but you don't want to completely ignore it. So distance wasn't as big of a factor last year as you perhaps would think. It was all about the greens, as you see here. If we sort on fairways, Colin Morikawa, that's his game. He just gained a whole lot of fairways. Not a lot of correlation beyond him and maybe Jason Day. You got a clunker from Kodaira. Justin Rose was a top 20, but a missed cut from Svensson, very high up. Stewart was a high missed cut. Homa was somewhat high in the fairways. If we look at good drives, a little bit more correlating. You don't have the missed cut nearly as high. 53rd, and then top 20, top 10, third, clunker, and then your winner. So not nearly as high, but then you go into the greens. This is where your correlation is. Top 5, third, top 10. You know, a clunker from Nick Hardy, sure. Top 15, winner, top 10, top 5. I mean, even top 25, top 20 right underneath them. Lots into the greens in regulation here, which makes a lot of sense. Again, the course is long, the greens are small, and they're difficult to hit. So you would think greens in regulation might be a pretty decent factor. And moving into 2022, looking at Luke List's win, this is where you'll notice that the distance really starts to come back. Look at the top 15. Only a couple negative in terms of distance. Luke List pretty high in distance. Rahm high in distance. Even Aaron Ryan, Smotherman were high in terms of the distance. Good drives and greens also a decent factor. So looking at the distance, your winner was a little bit higher up than Max Homa was the year before. Miscut from Bryson, but you have your cut making up here for distance. But again, it's in the greens. 20th, 39th, 3rd, 2nd, 6th, top 20, top 20, top 10. Your winner a little bit further down in the greens in 2022. Good drives gained actually might have been the leader. And more so still the greens. And then lastly, just take a look at 2021 just to emphasize the fact that distance was an outlier last year. Other than your winner, Patrick Reed, again, majority of the players were positive in terms of distance. And in fact, Patrick Reed was negative in terms of greens as well. He must have just put the daylights out of it that year. If we sort on the distance, again, you got a lot of your cut making. Cameron Champ missed cut fairly high, but most part, you got your cut making. It's in the greens. Top 20, top 10, top 10, top 10. Middling, runner-up, top 10. Another runner-up a little bit lower. So lots in the greens. We're still going to be looking at distance. Good drives gained a little bit less so. I'm thinking it's more so in the greens that we want to look at. So let's take a look at some driving distance. A couple of different ways I guess we can look at this. Just flat out top driving distance players to start, and then we'll filter out some metrics. So our top driving distance players in the field this week: Cameron Champ, Minwoo Lee, Carrick Higo, Callum Tarrant, Taylor Pendrith, Kevin Yu, Nikolai Højgaard, Ludwig Aubert, Taylor Moore, Keith Mitchell, and Johnny Vegas. We can take a look at driving distance when it's difficult. And again, I'm just going to keep it easy, leave it at the beginning of 2023. Our top driving distance players when a round is difficult: Minwoo Lee, Vincent Norman, Gary Woodland, Joseph Bramlett, Keith Mitchell, Will Gordon, Patrick Rogers, Pearson Coody, Nikolai Højgaard, and S.H. Kim. And then lastly, we'll take a look at driving distance on long courses. Again, this is kind of where I'm leaning, I think, because everyone's going to have to hit driver on these, on the majority of these par fours and all the par fives, since the course is so long. So our top driving distance players on long courses: Nikolai Højgaard, Matty Schmid, Joseph Bramlett, Vincent Norman, Gary Woodland, Cameron Champ, Will Gordon, Carl Yuan, Sam Stevens, and Keith Mitchell. All right. The only other thing we're going to cover, and we'll cover a couple more things on this page view. Definitely going to look at greens, and I want to look at greens when it's difficult. It's pretty simple combination here, in the sense that Torrey Pines is difficult. The greens are going to be difficult to hit. I expect scoring to be pretty high this week, meaning we're not going to get into the minus 30s like we did for the Amex. We're probably looking at minus, anywhere from 11 to 14 would be my guess for the winter. Maybe even less with all the rain that they've had today. So our top greens gained players when rounds are difficult: Xander, Colin Morikawa, Will Gordon, Patrick Cantlay, Gary Woodland, Sepp Straka, Emiliano Grillo, Luke List, Aaron Rai, and Alex Smalley. There's your top 10 greens gained when a round is difficult. The other thing that I want to look at, let's go ahead and take a look at scrambling. Scrambling is going to be important. I don't know yet if I'm going to look at around the green or if I'm going to look at scrambling. But either way, one of those two are going to be in the final mixed condition model. So our top scramblers when a round is difficult: Minwoo Lee, Andrew Novak, Taylor Pendrith, S.H. Kim, Matt Wallace, Jason Day, Taylor Montgomery, Eric Barnes, Chad Ramey, and Michael Kim. All right, I'll get this prepped for the scoring. Last night I spent a little bit of time thinking about whether we wanted to look at birdies or bogeys, and it looked like the birdies gained was the slightly favored metric of those two, which is a little bit counterintuitive. So I was really interested to come into the prior leaderboards and see if we can't finalize or figure out which of these two metrics we want to look at. Again, looking at the top 19, only one negative in bogey avoidance, couple in birdies gained. It looks like the higher numbers are still in the birdies gained. Max Homa favored the birdies. Morikawa favored the birdies. Ryder bogeys, Rahm bogeys. It's pretty close. If we sort 3rd, 1st, 11th, 2nd, 7th, 9th, it's pretty tough to beat. Bogey avoidance, 4th, 2nd, 7th, some 13th, some 18ths. So it looks like the birdies gained slightly last year was the favored metric among birdies versus bogeys. If we look at 2022 and Luke List's win, he was favoring the birdies. Will Zalatoris much so in the bogeys. Birdies, 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 bogeys. Again, it looks like the birdies gained. 11th, 6th, 1st, 6th, 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 11th, 3rd, Bogey avoidance, yeah. 6th, 2nd, 11th, 39th. I think we're going to be looking at both of them because you're definitely going to need to avoid some bogeys. Pars are good scores, generally speaking, at Torrey Pines South. But it's hard to ignore the fact that the more correlating statistic has been birdies gained, at least the past couple of years. So we're going to keep this difficult relative to par filter on. I just prefer matching a scoring metric like birdies, like bogeys, with a scoring filter, easy and difficult to par. So, because eagles are pretty rare here, we're just going to look at birdies gained and bogeys avoided when it's difficult. Our top birdies gained players when rounds are difficult: Sahith Theegala, Max Homa, Sepp Straka, Jason Day, Justin Suh, Colin Morikawa, Xander, Keegan, Adrian Meronk, Taylor Moore, and Dylan Wu. Just a quick look. The players that are top 10 or honorable mention, you got Max Homa 2nd and 11th. 2nd birdies, 11th in bogeys. Jason Day 4th and 1st. Justin Suh 4th and 8th. Morikawa 6th and 18th. Xander 7th and 3rd. Taylor Moore 10th and 19th. Patrick Cantlay 12th and 2nd. And give probably an honorable mention to Minwoo Lee 20th and 5th. If we're just going to look at bogey avoidance, our top bogey avoiders when rounds are difficult: Jason Day, Patrick Cantlay, Xander, Hideki, Minwoo Lee, Stuart Sink, Michael Kim, Justin Suh, Taylor Pendrith, and Justin Rose. So there's a look at your top bogey avoiders when rounds are difficult. Again, I'm probably going to have both of these in the final mixed condition model, but as of right now, I'm leaning slightly into the birdies gained, considering what we saw in the prior leaderboards. All right, let's take a look at proximity very, very quickly. If there's a range, I believe it's going to be the 200 plus. I don't think total prox is going to be a big thing, but having said that, looking at last year's leaderboard, there are some fairly big numbers in here in the total prox. 200 plus didn't look like it contributed much in terms of upper leaderboard success at all. It was 150 to 175 last year, which seems rather odd considering the majority of approach shots, at least at Torrey Pines South, is going to come from 200 plus. If we sort, decent amount of correlation here in total prox. 7th, some middlings, top 25, top 20, 2nd, 1st. This is decent. This is decent in terms of total prox. Correlation. 200 plus, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. 7th, 20th, your winner wasn't up here at all. If we look at 2022 and proximity, again, surprisingly, total prox has a little bit here, but look at the 200 plus. Every single player in your top 10 in 2022 was positive from 200 plus. That's very, very good to see, considering a lot of approach shots come from this range. If we sort, again, our winner was 3rd in total prox. We've got, a top 25 and a middling to clunker, but winner, top 15, top 10. The top 15 and top 10 a little bit lower here. Total prox might have a little bit, surprisingly, at least to me. 200 plus, you got your cut making, but nothing really outstanding. 2021, proximity. Again, your top 15, just due to ties, only a couple negative in 200 plus. Not necessarily the strongest of correlation, but majority of your top end finishers were at least positive in that range. All right. We'll take a look at both just very quickly. We'll remove the filter. All right. Since the beginning of 2023, our top total prox players in the field this week: Colin Morikawa, Hideki, Alex Smalley, Ryan Moore, Michael Kim, Henrik Norlander, Ches Reavie, Adam Svensson, Charlie Hoffman, and Gary Woodland. I just now noticed that Norlander doesn't have a tee time, so it's quite possible that he is withdrawn. A great source to check would be Rob Bolton over on Twitter, as he is the one that keeps you up to date with field changes. I have not looked since roughly dinner, which would have been 6:30 or 7 Eastern. I haven't looked for field changes since, so it's possible Norlander's out. But there's your top 10 in terms of total procs. If there's a specific range, I do think it's the 200 plus. Your top 200 plus approach players in the field this week: Charlie Hoffman, Adam Svensson, Luke List, Sahith Theegala, Stefan Jaeger, Justin Suh, Alex Smalley, Austin Eckroat, Cameron Champ, and Harrison Endicott. All right, let's move quickly to the par 3s, 4s, and 5s, and then we'll start getting into some Torrey Pines specific data in Microsoft Excel. Taking a look at par 3s, we saw for the winners that they've been pretty important, and that is not letting us down. At least for 2023, Max Homa played them extremely well. Most of the players high up on the leaderboard played the par 3s well. 4th, 44th, 1st, 7th, 13th, 20th, 25th. You got quite a bit of par 3 performance here. If there's a range, my guess would be the longer ranges, only because that's where the majority of the length of par 3s come at the South Course. But it's just kind of looking like total par 3s. If we look at 2022, Luke List's win. Again, he played them fairly well. Not the best, but still fairly well. Only a couple players negative in par 3s. A little bit less correlating because you have some clunkers have made cuts up here. Top 20, third, second, third, top 10, some top 25s. Fairly strong. Fairly strong. And then 2021. Now, Patrick Reed didn't play them particularly well. 7th, 10th, and then falls off for a little bit. But lots of top 10s pretty high up here. This is to say that the par 3s are going to carry some weight like they did for the American Express. So our top par 3 performers in the field this week: Eric Cole, Colin Morikawa, Justin Suh, Max Homa, Grayson Sigg, Carson Young, Nico Echeverria, Stuart Sink, Keegan, and Xander are your top 10 in terms of par 3 performance. Looking into par 4s, the majority of the par 4s, especially on the South Course, measure 450 to 5, 6 of the 10. We see that they were fairly important, especially for Max Homa's win. 9.3. Yeah, he led in that category at 450 to 5. Pretty darn strong correlation too, other than Austin Cook. You got a middling finish from Dean Burmester, but a lot of elite finishes around him. 4th, 13th, runner-up, top 15s, top 5s, top 10. Lots of correlation here on the 450 to 5 and in the just par 4s in general, because these are some of the hardest par 4s on the PGA Tour. Looking at 2022, not necessarily as high in the numbers, but again, look at Luke List. Probably led in the 450 to 5, yeah, or close to it. 11th and then 1st. 6th, middling. 6th, 11th, 20th, 2nd, 11th, 16th. Very strong. Very strong. And then I'll just show you 2021 just very, very quickly. Par 4s. Patrick Reed, again, probably not the best, or tied for the best. Okay. So 450 to 500. The past 3 years, the winner of the tournament was the leader or second in performance at 450 to 500 yard par 4s. A big factor. So let me set this and get ready for the par 5s. Our top performers on par 4s, 450 to 500 yards in the field this week in the past calendar year: Xander, Ryan Fox, Sahith Theegala, Patrick Cantlay, Taylor Pendrith, Bo Hostler, Eric Cole, Hideki, Johnny Vegas, and Ludwig Aubert. There's your top 10 performers, 450 to 500 yard par fours. Par fives, again, going to be very, very important. 2 measured at this length on the scorecard and 2 measured here on the scorecard. 4.8, 5.8. Yeah, lots of correlation at the very top. 3rd, 37th, 9th, 1st, 2nd, 4th. Lots there. Pretty balanced for Max Homa, but it looks like the majority of the players were a little bit better in the 550 to 600. 2022 par fives, a little bit less so for Luke List, but I mean still 6th, 6th, 11th, 3rd, 6th. Luke List just a little bit further down here. 2021 par fives. Yeah, Patrick Reed, this is where he really played well, and it was in the 550 to 600. 10th, oh my gosh, 10th, 18th, 2nd, 1st, 2nd, 7th, 16th, 18th. So par fives are going to have quite a bit here in terms of weight. My guess would be 550 to 600. So we'll take a look at both. But your top par 5 performers in the field this week: Aaron Rai, Minwoo Lee, Doug Gim, Harrison Endicott, Sung Jae, Stephan Jaeger, Lee Hodges, K.H. Lee, Johnny Vegas, and J.J. Spawn. My guess is it's the 550 to 600, but we'll be able to double check that here shortly when we go into Microsoft Excel. Your top par 5 performers from 550 to 600: Lee Hodges, Stephan Jaeger, Aaron Rai, Colin Morikawa, Davis Thompson, Keegan Bradley, Ben Griffin, Doug Gim, Harrison Endicott, and Mac Hughes. But I'm thinking more so just par 5s. All right, with that, let's go to Microsoft Excel and take a look at the Torrey Pines South course in a very, very detailed view. So you can see, looking at the past 5 years, the strokes gained per shot type, the leader is actually putting. We saw in 2022, Luke List's year is a pretty low outlier. You remove that outlier, you know, the putting is starting to kind of distance itself from the approach as the most important shot type. So we're going to have a lot to look at in putting in our mixed condition model. Around the green has steadily been getting more important. And this is a pretty low outlier. You remove that, around the green overtakes off the tee. Off the tee has been very consistent, but not heavy in terms of the strokes gained total. So we're definitely going to be looking at all 4 in our mixed condition model. Putting looking like it's going to be the most. We're definitely going to look at approach, considering how much the approach led to high-end leaderboard success on those prior leaderboards. We'll have a little bit off the tee, and we'll have a little bit all around the green as well. Moving to distance, fairways, greens. You see, again, as I was mentioning last year, distance, that was a little bit of an outlier. It was a low outlier, meaning it was one of the years that it didn't matter as much. The rest of these years, it's been pretty consistent, a pretty important factor into the double digits. You think of somewhere like Phoenix and Genesis, Arnold Palmer, places that distance kind of matter, and the Farmers is right there with it. It's right there with it. So we're definitely going to want to target the Bombers. You need some distance, generally speaking, to play well. It's not absolutely mandatory. See Peter Malnati. But generally speaking, the players with distance have a pretty big advantage here, considering this course is so darn long. Looking at good drives, it's gotten steadily more important throughout the years. But the greens here, the greens is where it's at. You got a decently high outlier here, but a huge anomaly of a low outlier there. It runs to 3.37, which is, almost as much as Pebble Beach, where I think we might be next week or maybe in 2 weeks. And those greens are some of the smallest on tour. And then you see how important the greens in regulation are for them. So we're going to be looking at quite a bit in terms of greens gained this week for the Farmers. These greens are small. They're difficult to hit. So in this page view, we're looking at distance. We're looking at greens. Looking into the scoring, again, birdies and bogeys. The birdies, surprisingly, have gotten a little bit less important throughout the years. They've declined in importance. The bogeys avoided are just kind of everywhere. Pretty volatile. So again, I'm probably looking at birdies gained. I think I'll have both, but I'm looking at birdies gained. All right, but the real benefit of looking at these very detailed metrics, especially for the pars, 3s, 4s, and 5s. So we'll be able to get a sense of if there is a specific range that matters the most at a particular course. We look at the par 3s, very important, a 1.5. Pretty darn important. It was a 1.8 last week at the Amex, and we know how much we put emphasis into the par 3s last week, so going to have quite a bit this week for the Farmers. But taking a look at the specific links, like 200 to 225 is the most important, but it's only attributing a third in terms of the total strokes gained for par 3s. It's just not enough. So we're going to be looking at total par 3s. There's not a specific range here, as you can see, that's contributing to the majority of the strokes gained in the par 3s. So we're going to be looking at total par 3s. Looking at par 4s, much different story. A 4.2, doing a little bit of rounding. Almost, or actually a little bit more than half of that is in the 450 to 5. A little more than half. So while it's probably correct to look at all par 4s, because you do have a little bit in each of these, probably going to single out the 450 to 5s by themselves. And take a look at the 450 to 5s a little bit by themselves, considering half come into this range. But I don't think it's correct to look at only this length of par 4, because you still have a decent amount in the 400 to 450, and you still have a shorter par 4. You have a long par 4 at Torrey Pines South, not to mention the North Course. So we're probably looking at 450 to 5 by itself and total par 4s. And then finally, par 5s. In fact, the 500 to 550 is the highest in the strokes gained. There are no par 5s that measure to this length at Torrey Pines South. So we're looking at just total par 5s. Now we have a low outlier and a high outlier, so kind of cancel each other out. 2.3 versus a 1.5. So the par 5s are going to carry a little bit more weight than the par 3s, or they have in the past 5 years. So we're going to put a little bit more weight in the par 5s come tomorrow night in the mixed condition model. All right, so there's a look at Torrey Pines in a detailed view, looking at the specific shot types, pars 3s, 4s, and 5s. Let me bring up last year's mixed condition model and see how we fared last year and see what we need to do better at. So bringing up last year's mixed condition model for the Farmers, pretty good, at least in terms of results. Looking at the top 20 here, 3 players missed the cut. 1, 2, 3. That's pretty good. I usually try to look for 4 to 5 about 20 to 25% of my top 20 missed the cut. We got only 3. This is pretty solid, I feel. Keegan was 11th. Runner-up, 7%. Sahith, top 5, right at 20th in my rankings. I'm really happy with this. Now, granted, you had a lot of popular plays up here that performed well. Some plays are just good. Even like Morikawa, 10.5%, finished 3rd. I'm really happy. This is probably one of the better results based mixed condition models I've had in quite a while. So what did I look at? Well, apparently I looked at everything. I had all of the metrics, all of them. So I had nothing that was 15%. Everything was 10 or 5%. Round the green, bogey avoidance, greens make sense, scrambling. So a lot in, this kind of around the green. I had 10% in bogey avoidance, 10% in greens when it's difficult. Essentially the exact same metric and filter combination I'm thinking. I did have 10% in 200 plus. That makes a lot of sense. 10% in par 5s. Only 5% on approach. I think that's a mistake. That probably needs to go to 10%. I only have 5% putting. That's definitely a mistake. I'm definitely going to put 10% here. But I'm also going to be changing the filter now that we can isolate the exact courses we want. I was just looking at Fast and Lightning POA. We're going to look at the courses. Torrey Pines South, Pebble Beach, and Riviera. 5% birdies or better gained. 5% driving distance. Sorry, right off your screen. 5% birdies or better gained on long courses. 5% driving distance. 5% par 3s, 4s. Again, separated out the 450 to 5 par 4s. Sorry, I'm still battling that scratch. And then lastly, I had 3-putt avoidance at 5%. I'm definitely going to have that as well in the mixed condition model. So, we looked at 14 different metrics last year. It's kind of hard to argue with the results here. That's a lot of metrics to look at, but kind of hard to argue with the results. All right, if we sort on the results, Homa, line 1, and Bradley, how predictive were these? So we'll go down to, say, the top 24 here. Gosh dang it. I just wanted this. We'll go down to Justin Suh, I guess. Yeah. So anybody who finished in the top 24. How predictive were these? The lower the number, the better. Well, some of them were really good and some of them were really bad. Sorry, let me set this so that way it doesn't move on us. So around the green, 63, not the greatest. Bogeys. Now, greens were a little bit better. Scrambling, not necessarily as much. Look how poor the 200 plus. 74. That's one of the worst ones I've seen in a while. So that's probably a metric we can get rid of. Wasn't the most predictive. Par 5s. The approach was pretty good at 54. But then we're starting to get into a lot of very good metrics here. Look at the putting. A 47. The birdies are better gained. A 47. Distance was only a 50. Par 4s were a 53. The specific length of par 4s, a 48. 3-putt avoidance was a 37. It's very strong. So definitely going to need to put a lot more emphasis into the putting, I feel. But overall, again, just very hard to ignore the results of this mixed condition model. considering only 3 of the 20 missed. 3 of my top 20 missed the cut. I had the winner up here. Several top 10s. Even some of my unique plays. Keegan Bradley. Sahith Theegala. Hadwin, maybe not as much. Turned out good. Turned out well. So we're gonna be mimicking a lot of this mixed condition model, I feel, come tomorrow, when the DFS Tactics show rolls around. So now that we have looked through some prior leaderboards, looked at some very, very detailed data of Torrey Pines, let's get a feel for the players who have performed well in those metrics, specifically at Torrey Pines. So we're definitely going to be looking at approach. So the players who have hit their irons the best here at Torrey Pines the past 5 years: Sahith Theegala, Colin Morikawa. There's our defending champion Max Homa. Keegan, Zalatoris has been good. Rose, former champion here. Justin Thomas, Tony Finau, Alonzo Griffin, 3 for 4. Robbie Shelton, 3 for 3. Luke List, champion 2 years ago. Woodland, Hideki. Don't want to overlook the putting by any means. So our top putters at Torrey Pines the past 5 years. See, only one time. Justin Suh, 2 for 3. There's Xander. J-Day, Will Gordon, Snedeker, 2-time winner, way back, but 2-time winner here. Matt McNeely, 3 for 4. Pendrith, Straka, Taylor Montgomery, Adam Shank, 3 for 4. Malnati, 3 for 4. Max Homa, 3 for 4. Sung Jae, Morikawa. Even Doug Gim is positive here. So take that for what you will. Doug Gim, normally very poor putter. He's positive here. All right. I'm going to skip the driving distance. Let's just go to greens. So the players who have gained the most greens the past 5 years: Morikawa, Rye, Taylor Moore, Smalley. There's Luke List. Zalatoris, Bramlett, 4 for 4. Sam Ryder, 3 for 5. Hardy, only 1 for 3. Lonto Griffin, Tony Finau, Sung Jae, Kevin Yu, only 1 for 2. Will Gordon, Max Homa, Justin Rose. I'm gonna skip the. We'll skip the scoring. I do want to look at the par 3s, 5s, 4s, all that. So, top par 3 performers at at Torrey Pines: Sung Jae, Justin Suh, Max Homa, Morikawa, Rose, Theegala, Keegan. Lauer's 0 for 2, but he's played the par 3s well. Martin Laird, Hoffman, a little less. Paul Hostler, only 2 for 5. He's been really bad at the par 5s. Hideki, Taylor Montgomery, Stallings. All right. Let's go to 450 to 500 par 4s. Stevens, only 1 time. Horschel, Billy Horschel, 3 for 4. There's Justin Thomas, who's not playing. I need to remove him. Apologies. I haven't updated this file since Sunday. However, there's Luke List and Max Homa, Justin Rose, Daniel Berger, 1 for 2. Nick Hardy, only 1 for 3. Will Gordon, Xander, Keegan, Zalatoris, Woodland, Shelton, Finau. All right, last one. Take a look at par 5s. Your top par 5 performers past 5 years, specifically at Torrey Pines. Aaron Rai, 2 for 2. Lonto Griffin. There's Morikawa and Max Homa. Montgomery, Sahith Tagala, Sungjae, J-Day, Tony Finau, Rose, Woodland, Hideki. Look at all these elite, average finishes and their par 5 performance. So definitely probably need to increase the par 5 weight from last year's mixed condition model. A little bit further down, Will Zalatoris and Luke List. Only 2 for 3. There's Malnati. He's played the par 5s very well. For somebody who doesn't have a lot of distance, par 5s. Vegas 3 for 5. Robbie Shelton. Mackenzie Hughes played them well, but only 1 for 4. Alrighty. I'll resort this on best average finish. And that's going to be the show this evening. Again, apologies that still dealing with the scratchy throat. Try not to cough all over you all or in your all's ear, but such is life. I want to be able to give you all the information, so you're going to just have to deal with me drinking a lot more water and whatnot. Hopefully it's not too unbearable. Thanks to P for jumping in chat. Really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, and supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, subscribing. Really appreciate it. A quick reminder that because the Farmers is a Wednesday to Saturday event, we will be live tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, for the DFS Tactics show. So tomorrow night will be the DFS Tactics show. You have one less day to get your lineups in for the Farmers. So we'll be live tomorrow night for all your lineup questions, your top pivots, the best fades, and all that stuff. But thanks for supporting the channel. Love what I do. Giving an in-depth look at sports statistics, giving you a statistician, a data analyst's view of some in-depth material, and trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. It's been a very good start to the year, even though Sam Burns didn't come through for us. We've already hit one outright at the Century. Sepp Straka in the top European. It was a very, very successful DFS last week. We're going to try to continue the positive momentum this week for the Farmers. So make sure you set your reminders for the DFS Tactics show tomorrow night. For all the wagers you've made so far this week for the Farmers, for all the wagers you're thinking about making this week for the Farmers, and until I see you tomorrow night for the DFS Tactics show, may all your bets be profitable.